Ruben Amorim is looking for an all-action midfielder for his tactical setup at Manchester United. Would Dortmund's Felix Nmecha be that player? Without any further ado, let's analyze. Let's get started by talking about Felix Nmecha's extensive range of passing. In fact, Nmecha's long pass accuracy rate stands at 82%. This puts him in an elite group of elite midfielders that includes the likes of Lobotka, Palacios, and Vitinha. Nmecha's superior passing ability allows him to be effective in both ends of the pitch. In the deeper areas, his extensive passing range can actually allow the team to break into fast counter-attack and transition quickly from defense to attack, whereas in the final third, he's actually quite capable of creating those secondary assists that enable his team to unlock stubborn opposition. Well, for us Manchester United fans, we have to look back to the days of Paul Pogba, maybe the days of Michael Carrick, before we can find a Manchester United midfielder who could consistently play these vertical progressive passes the way Felix Nmecha does. Now, here is where things get spicy. The build-up phase. In fact, Nmecha contributes to the build-up not in an orthodox way, the same way a classic deep-lying playmaker would contribute, i.e. dropping into spaces in order to receive the ball in the build-up, touch the ball as much as possible, the way Vitinha or Frankie de Jong would. What he does instead is actually look for empty spaces. And this is actually such a novel approach to the build-up phase, in that Nmecha always seeks to find pockets of space where he can receive the ball easily from teammates, but then also it means that he has space and time on the ball. Therefore, he can actually play much higher quality passes and create much more verticality and penetration for his team. Now, this is a very important skill to have, because when you face teams that press with intensity, it's very important to always have a player who is a free outlet so that, his teammates can play off of. And Nmecha is definitely that kind of player. And also the fact that he doesn't attempt to touch the ball every single time means that he doesn't partake in meaningless, recycling of possession, but rather he just touches the ball when he's actually able to contribute to that verticality and that progression of the ball. So he's not really involved in the initial phases of the build-up phase, but he gets involved when the ball is 30, 40 yards away from Dortmund's goal. And that actually can work very well at Manchester United when we pair that fact with the fact that most of our defenders, actually, I'd say all of our central defenders right now are actually quite comfortable with the ball. Maybe we don't actually need a midfielder who comes in and collects the ball, but rather a midfielder who can actually make himself available further up the pitch in order to receive the ball from the likes of Mazraoui and Leny Yoro. Felix Nmecha is not just a passer, just as any competent defensive midfielder is, of course, competent defensively. He is a big guy, he's quite athletic, and so he's quite proficient at winning the ball. But one thing that I find particularly interesting with him is the fact that he reads the game very well, and his anticipation is actually through the roof, which allows him to intercept the opposition's passes. But what's really even more interesting about Nmecha is that he does have the speed, the athleticism, and the technique in order for him to quickly turn those defensive contributions into counterattacks and into chances, goal-scoring chances for Dortmund. And in fact, if you have any doubts on Nmecha's technical proficiency, all you have to do is to look at this beautiful, wonderful nutmeg against Fluminense. So yeah, a breath of fresh air. We definitely need players who are technically proficient. You know, the likes of Xerxes, the likes of Mateus Cunha are definitely good additions to Manchester United over the past 2 seasons. If we can add a player who is a little bit similar, who is technically at ease the way Felix Nmecha is in the central midfield area, then that definitely can be a huge asset for Ruben Amorim. And finally, the attacking threat. Just like traditional box-to-box midfielders, Felix Nmecha is actually quite proficient at making those late runs into the box and scoring from the edge of the area. He's got a great sense of timing. He's got an ability to identify pockets of space and those opportunities in order for him to receive the ball and shoot at goal. But also what makes him special, what makes him similar to someone like Frank Lampard or Scott McTominay, is the fact that he's got the finishing of a striker. The way he strikes the ball, the way he positions himself, all of that is reminiscent of an attacking midfielder or a striker. So yeah, if you're looking for a midfielder who can bring a lot of goals and a lot of goal contributions from midfield, then Felix Nmecha definitely is the guy. So Felix Nmecha may not be the flashiest name in the current market, but if you are looking for a traditional box-to-box midfielder, an all-action midfielder who can do it all, then Felix Nmecha is definitely the guy. So when you pair this with the fact that Ruben Amorim favors these kinds of midfielders in his 3-4-3 system, just like players like Mbeumo and Cunha, a player like Felix Nmecha would fit in like a glove in this Ruben Amorim system. Now, okay, I know what you're gonna say. Well, Mr. Scarlet Report, all of this is great, but what's the catch? Well, the catch is, let's call it the Jadon Sancho syndrome, because Nmecha, just like Jadon Sancho, is a Dortmund player, but also he started his career at Manchester City. And I think that all of us Manchester United fans, we do have, a somewhat collective PTSD when it comes to these kind of transfers. But also, if you are being honest, I mean, our other two acquisitions from Dortmund, Enric Mkhitaryan and Shinji Kagawa, haven't really lived up to the expectations. So I'm kind of wary on whether, going for a Dortmund player again for the fourth time could be a great idea. Of course, I'm quite rational. I'm not superstitious, so I don't think these things are, connected in any way. If he's a good player, if he fits the system, then by all means go for him. But I'm sure that many Manchester United fans might look at this and might say, yeah, you know what, let's look somewhere else. But the truth is that if you're looking for an all-action midfielder that fits the Ruben Amorim system, Felix Nmecha is actually as close to the archetype, midfielder in this system as you can get. Well, anyway, guys, so let me know in the comment section, what do you think about Felix Nmecha? Would you go for him or would you go for an alternative? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Until next time, cheers.